Hello, this is Mrs. Sturgeon here to talk to you about how to simplify square roots. So let's go ahead and get started. The method I'm going to teach you will require that you basically have memorized the perfect squares up until basically a certain point. I would say 144 is a good stopping place. So you'll notice at the top of the page, there are a list of perfect squares. I'm going to highlight them here. What I would do is go ahead and pause the video and write those all down. What I'm also going to provide you with is what do you get when you square root all of these numbers. So I'm going to go through and write down every single one of the answers for what happens when you take the square root of that number. Okay, and if you're like, what does that even mean? What is a square root? A square root is just asking the question, what number multiplied by itself gets me this answer? Okay, so a number multiplied by itself to get 4 is 2. So the answer to that, I'm just going to write underneath, is 2. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and write all these perfect squares. When I have both pieces of information, pause the video, write down your perfect squares in your notes. I usually color code, use one color for the perfect square and one color for the answer. And then we'll go ahead and do some problems. So again, you'll find underneath the perfect squares that you have the answers to each. When you square root 9, you get 3. When you square root 16, you get 4, so on and so forth. It's good to know both of those numbers. So again, pause the video, make sure you have these all written down in your notes somewhere, and then let's go ahead and jump into some examples. Okay, so using my list of perfect squares, I'm going to go down the list and try and find the largest perfect square that divides evenly into 72. So when I say divides evenly, I mean when I divide 72 by this number, I get a nice whole number answer. I don't get any decimals, none of that. So the largest perfect square, if you're struggling to find it, what you can do is basically take 72 and just start dividing by the list of numbers that I had you write down earlier. So the 4, 9, 16, 25, 36, so on and so forth. Try to find the biggest one that when divided into 72, it gets you a nice answer. So I happen to know that the largest perfect square that divides evenly into 72 is 36. 36 times 2, oh sorry, I wrote 32. 36 times 2 is 72. So notice that I rewrote 72, the square root, I rewrote it as square root of 36 times the square root of 2. Because again, the largest perfect square that divides into 72 is 36. Now, what I need to do is take the square root of the perfect square. The perfect square is 36. When you take the square root of 36, that just becomes 6. So my final answer when simplifying the square root is 6 square root 2. Okay, and that's how you simplify square roots. So I'm going to go ahead and do quite a few more examples until hopefully we get the hang of it. So again, first step, start by taking my number and dividing through all of the perfect squares until I find the largest one that goes into 48 evenly, right? So there are numerous perfect squares that will divide into 48, but the largest one is 16. Okay, so I'm going to split this up. 16 times 3 is 38. So that's why I'm writing square root of 16 times square root of 3. Only one of these is a perfect square. The one that's the perfect square is the 16. Okay, that we can actually take the square root of it. The square root of 16 is a nice answer. It's just 4. So the final answer to this becomes 4 square root 3. Again, the 4 came from the square root of 16, and then the square root of 3, there's no nice answer when I take the square root of 3, so there's no need to go any further with this. This is just 4 root 3. Okay, same process. Let's take 108, start dividing all of the perfect squares until you find the largest one that divides into 108. There are a few perfect squares that will divide into 108, but the largest one is 36. So I'm going to rewrite this as 36. And if you're wondering where I'm getting this other number from, it's basically what times 36 is equal to 108? Well, the answer to that is 3. If I'm taking my calculator and I'm doing 108 divided by 36, I should have gotten that from the start, from my actual calculator, right? So now all I need to do is simplify the square root. The only one that's the perfect square is the 36. 36 simplifies to be just 6. So it becomes 6 square root 3 That's my final answer. Let's do one more. Looking for the largest perfect square that will divide evenly into 27. The largest number that divides into 27 is, well, largest perfect square, I should say, is 9. So we split it up using 9. 9 times what is 27? Answer to that is 3. So since 9 is the perfect square, 9 simplifies to become 3. So final answer to this is 3 square root of 3. And that's how we simplify radicals.